There you are. I wondered if tonight would bring you back. It is time for chapter 49. She still has the receipt. Except she doesn't. She checked her pocket when she arrived at her destination. The receipt from the shop in the village where she had stopped for petrol 40 minutes earlier was gone. The petrol in her tank was real. She had driven on it for 40 minutes, but the village where she bought it was not on any map, had never been on any map. And when she drove back to find it, there was nothing there. Just road and countryside and the particular silence of a place that had never existed, at least, not for her, not anymore. A woman was making a long drive through a rural area on a route she had not traveled before. She had been driving for several hours and was running low on petrol when she noticed a small village ahead that she did not recall from her map. She pulled in gratefully. The village was small, a petrol station, a few shops, a handful of houses visible along the main street. The kind of settlement that exists in rural areas without attracting particular attention. She filled the car and went into the small shop beside the petrol station to buy something to eat and drink for the remainder of the journey. The woman behind the counter was friendly. The shop was ordinary, the transaction unremarkable. She spent perhaps 30 minutes in the village in total, then continued her journey. She arrived at her destination without incident and thought nothing more of the stop. The following week, she was making a similar journey through the same area. She had noted the village as a useful stop and intended to use it again. She drove the same road at approximately the same point in her journey. There was no village. She slowed and looked carefully. The road passed through open countryside without interruption. No petrol station, no shop, no houses. She drove on for several kilometers and then turned back. Drove the stretch of road again, slowly. Nothing. She checked her map. The area showed no settlement of any kind. She checked the receipt from the shop. She had kept it in the door pocket of the car. The pocket was empty. The item she had bought was also gone, not misplaced, simply absent, as though the transaction, like the village, had quietly ceased to have occurred. If these stories find their way to you, if you feel drawn back to this quiet room again and again, there is a place for you here. Others have found it. Perhaps you will tell them you did too. She asked people she knew who drove that route regularly whether they were familiar with a small village at that particular point on the road. No one was. She described it carefully. The petrol station, the shop, the friendly woman behind the counter. No one recognized anything she described. She searched online for any settlement in that area. Nothing corresponded. She drove the route 2 more times over the following months, always watching carefully at the point where the village had been, always finding nothing but open countryside. She considered the possibility that she had been confused about the location, but she had been paying attention. She had noted landmarks. She was certain of where she had stopped, and there was nothing there. There had been nothing there for a very long time, perhaps. She told me this story carefully, noting the details with the precision of someone who has gone over them many times in their own mind. She said the thing that unsettled her most was not the disappearance of the village. It was the woman behind the counter in the shop, the particular quality of her friendliness, warm, genuine, entirely at home. She had thought about that woman often in the time since, about what it meant for someone to be that completely present in a place that apparently did not exist in any consistent way. Whether the woman knew, whether the other people in the village knew, whether the entire settlement was aware of its own uncertain relationship with the map of the world, and whether the 30 minutes she had spent there had been, for them, something more significant than a brief stop on a long drive. I think about such places often, about what it means for a location to exist outside the ordinary continuity of the world, to appear when it appears and to withdraw when it withdraws. What I believe, having spent more time than most in spaces that exist at the edges of the ordinary world, is simpler than any theory. Some places are simply not entirely here. They occupy their location in the world with the same uncertain commitment that certain other presences occupy the spaces they inhabit, present enough to be experienced, absent enough to leave no reliable trace, and the people within them going about their days as though the question of whether they exist is one they have long since stopped finding interesting. She kept the name of the village, written on a small piece of paper she kept somewhere private. She looked at it occasionally, the way you look at something that reminds you of a question with no answer, and sometimes, on rural drives, when the road passes through open countryside without interruption, she finds herself watching. For a petrol station that should not be there, for a small shop with a friendly woman behind the counter, for a village that exists in a way that the map cannot account for. She has not found it again, but she has not stopped looking, and I find that entirely understandable, because some places, once you have been to them, leave something with you, even after the receipt has disappeared, and the item you bought has gone, and the road shows nothing but countryside. Something remains, a quiet and persistent sense that the village is still there, simply not available to you right now. Another whispered story from Japan, shared quietly here beside the kotatsu. If you are ever driving through rural countryside and find a village that was not on your map, stop if you wish. The people will be warm and entirely real, but keep your receipt somewhere safe and check that it is still there when you arrive at your destination. And here is the thought I cannot let go of. The village appeared when she needed it, when she was running low on petrol and had a long journey ahead. It provided what she needed, and then it withdrew, as though its purpose had been fulfilled, which raises a question I find genuinely unsettling. Was the village simply there by chance, or did it know she was coming? And if it knew she was coming, what else does it know? And who else is it waiting for right now, on a rural road, running low on petrol, with a long journey still ahead? If this story stayed with you, if the dark or the shadow feels a little closer tonight, you know where to find me. I am always here, beside the kotatsu, watching, waiting, and if you wish others to find their way here too, I would not object.